I dug a grave of which I was intending to kill my family because of stigma.
Our target audience is actually everybody who can read.
Imesaidia. Hata bado wengi wakipita kwa magari naonanga wakiangalia.
Even the passerby, when they see the information, they disseminate it to the other people.
It's an innovative way of transmitting messages.
It could then maybe those messages are intended to reach some particular quarters.
Today, the world is greatly advancing in technology. Modern forms of communication have cropped up targeting different groups of people. Along major highways, roads and towns, billboards have become the order of the day. The increase in this form of communication implies that it's effective in delivering the required information to the target audience. In the ancient times, individuals carved messages on stone pillars, wrote on papyrus reeds, lit bonfires, sent messengers, blew horns, and even used smoke signals as forms of communication. These forms of communication were rendered unreliable, inefficient, and could only communicate limited pre-signals such as victory or danger. Due to the discovery of new technology, channels of communication like the stones have been abandoned and considered backward. The introduction of new technology has greatly led to advanced and more reliable forms of communication like telephone, emails, internet, and social media platforms. Messages can now be sent almost instantly to the intended receiver regardless of the distance or location. In contrary, Emuhaya constituency in Vihiga County has defied the odds. In this age and era of technology, rocks are still being used to deliver messages to the people in this area.
And people have used them over all that period of time. People trust them, they're easy, they're simple, and they're easily accessible as traditional modes of communication. Of course, there are other forms of traditional modes of communication, such as dances, dages, proverbs, songs, and all that. But really, they are what I'll say good modes of communication that people have because they are effective.
Along Ebusakami Majengo Road, rocks are labeled with various graffiti intended to pass different messages to the people. Though HIV and AIDS awareness dominates most of the messages scribbled on these stones, there are still other messages therein. The big question is who writes on these rocks and why? To get answers to these questions led us to dig deeper, and our encounter with Kipepeo gave a ray of hope at last. Kipepeo, a community-based organization in Kima, has its offices opposite Bunyore Girls High School. The organization not only creates awareness through conveying messages related to HIV and AIDS epidemic, but also highlights gender sensitivity and importance of drinking clean water.
Mostly are HIV oriented because HIV has been a problem in this community, and it is there. Many people don't know, or many people fear about it. They don't disclose. So it was our major area of concern. We felt if we address this issue, it can also help to change the community. Also self-motivation or self-esteem. Very many people have low self-esteem. They don't actually believe they can do something. So when you write their message, like we tell them, you are able, you are capable. Women can lead. Even youths can take development initiatives. So we build their self-esteem, enabling them to tackle issues of development, hence changing and building their economic status.
They encourage the vulnerable in the community, including disabled, people living with HIV and AIDS, and orphans. According to the local administration, this CBO has greatly impacted on the people in this area to a great extent.
They advise the community and on the need of protection, usage of condom for protection of HIV/AIDS, and also they educated them on the usage of some of the drugs for HIV, and they sensitize them, the institution that are giving the drugs, so that they can attend the clinics within the community.
To accomplish their mission, Kipepeo partners with volunteers who are both local and international to visit the area regularly to educate the people of Emuhaya on these issues.
We write on the rock, we, the staffs of Kipepeo, plus volunteers. We have local volunteers and international volunteers, and even community volunteers. So what we normally do, we get the paint, we buy the paint. After buying the paint, we get the brushes. Then we normally say everybody to come up with a message that can be passed around to people. Then we go as a team, then we writing the rocks.
Their insight led us to look for the man who inspired Kima's rock graffiti. Dan Ongai is considered the first person in Emuhaya to go public about his HIV status on the 24th of November 2009.
I'm HIV positive since 1994. I've managed to stay with the virus, and I normally help my community to come up and tell people how HIV is.
At that time, the reaction from his community was so harsh that he decided to take his life and that of his family.
I dug a grave of which I was intending to kill my family because of stigma.
With the intervention of the local administration, he was rescued and sent for guidance and counseling, which changed his life.
I was counseled by another priest from the Church of God, and he told me that there's no worry, and that's why I decided now I should change my situation now to come and now started to preach. And instead of preaching through churches, I started now writing on stones because it was a good message. Writing on stone, it will make everybody, when passing on the road, will read that story and then know what is stigma and discrimination.
The rock which was laid on his grave became the first rock to bear written message. Little did he know that this would spread like bushfire.
I got a stone there after digging, and I decided to write there in attempted pain, which means I was attempted to that pain of digging the grave, and then I started writing there in attempted pain, which shows that after writing that, it's when I started now going outside to the rocks of the road, beside the road.
Dan partnered with Kipepeo and other volunteers to write HIV and AIDS related messages and encouraged the locals to go for testing in order to know their HIV and AIDS status. Apart from writing on rocks, Kipepeo together with Dan Ongai formed support groups that are aimed at supporting people living with HIV and AIDS. They conducted outreach programs on various issues affecting the people. Every time they finished talking to various gatherings, they would identify various rocks and the volunteers would write on the rocks to lay emphasis on their teachings. However, the messages which stare on the onlookers may have great or little impact on the target group. Some believe that it has impacted positively on the residents.
Sasa hiyo vitu yenye wameandika kwa mamawe kama HIV ilikuwa inaonyesha mtu akiona kitu kama hiyo ajiulize.
When people see these messages, they get to know the meaning of HIV and AIDS and how it is spread. There are people who come, train the residents, and then write on the rocks. Through the writings, one learns and a response is generated relatively.
Vile vinaanza, alafu inaambukizana. Na inaambukizana kwa njia gani? Wanawaeleza watu youth.
According to Kipepeo, the message reaches not only their target audience, but also those traveling along Majengo Ebusakami Road.
The rocks are well situated, they are along the road, so very many people are passing on the road, even in the vehicles or something like that. There are people who can't even come to offices here to get information or seek information, or they don't have time to go to hospital to get this information. But while they are passing on the road, they can just read one sentence or something that's written there, then they take home the message. That's why we decided to use the stones.
On the other hand, others view it differently.
The impression they may want to do is that one of window dressing. I'll look at it as window dressing. It could then maybe those messages are intended to reach some particular quarters. And being on the main highway and in a short span of about 2 kilometers, because basically the messages start from Seraro up to just before Buali on the rocks on that main highway. Away from the highway, those messages are not there. In the villages where these people are, the messages are not there. So it could be a window dressing somebody could do for specific, to meet specific, with specific intentions. And these being NGOs, they could have an intention to reach a certain, to reach a certain goal, which is usually linked to the donors.
The permanence of the messages on these rocks is also viewed as pollution to their beauty and a nuisance to those who view these messages on a daily basis.
Environmental pollution I'm attaching to these messages, for one, those rocks are a beauty unto themselves. And the essence, when you look at the rocks, a rock without messages on it and a rock with messages on it, you realize the one without messages on it has been interfered with, messages has been interfered with. And if we have to boost, say, local tourism, some of these rocks are so peculiar in their shape. In fact, no rock is like the other rock. And people definitely want to take pictures, carry home mementos of that rock. Definitely, if it has a message, maybe of AIDS or politics or whatever, no one would like to take a picture and have those messages in the background.
Use of natural rocks as a form of communication is cheaper and easily accessible. Community-based organizations which seek to address various issues should adopt this mode of communication which is environmental friendly. The use of available resources to pass their message is not only important but also affordable. A big chunk of advertisers and non-governmental organizations' budget is utilized in publicizing their products and services. Maybe if they considered the use of rocks to deliver the intended message, things would have been different. However, should they adapt the use of rocks to publicize their products and services?
It depends on which target audience. You know, there are some target audience whom you cannot get through rocks. There are some whom you can get through rocks, but some you cannot get through rocks. Remember, we now have what you call IMC. IMC is what you call the integrated marketing communication mix. And with that, then you must use different mediums so as to reach out to specific target audience. And you have to have those mediums reinforcing the major medium that you are using. So yes, rock is just but one medium. What about the other mediums? It's important.